G'day guys, Doug here from the Turf Shed. Today we're in sunny Brisbane, Queensland in the middle of October, and we're here today to do a lawn renovation on this beautiful Sir Walter buffalo. We're going to be doing this in 4 steps. One step we'll be skipping today is the scarifying. As it's a buffalo grass, we don't want to be tearing up those stolons too much. So the first step we'll be doing is a scalping or a low mow. Step 2 will be aerating or core aerator. Step 3 will be fertilising and all our additives. And then step 4 will be topsoiling and levelling. Right guys, so we're kicking off with step 1, which will be our scalping. Normally before we did this, we would do a scarify to really thin it out. But being a buffalo grass, we don't want to rip through all those stolons and essentially destroy the grass. So we're going to be skipping that step. While we're doing this is essentially to remove all the above ground thatch. So all that really built up leaf matter that's sitting above the soil. We're also doing this to reset the cutting height. So that way we've got nice green leaf rather than sort of bottom of brown leaf at the bottom of the leaf blade. How we're going to be doing this, essentially just working our way down through the cutting heights of the mower, just slowly working it lower and lower until we've essentially just got the above ground stolons left on the ground. We can't go too low today on this buffalo. As mentioned, it only grows by stolons. It doesn't have any below ground root system that'll help it regrow. So we need to leave that layer of stolons. And a tip for doing this scarify, or tip for doing this low mow, is that you're going to need a petrol powered mower. Unfortunately, a lot of the battery powered ones rather don't have the power to sort of really hack through it all, as well as a lot of them really can't get low enough to the heights that you need to really reset that scalping height. All right, scalping done. Geez, I can already taste those beers already. All right, so as you can see, we've still got the stolons showing, which is kind of that ideal height. We don't want to go any lower. It's scalped a bit on some of the high point, but that's all right because that'll help us level it out at the end. Some of the green spots you can see, they're the really low points. You can see I had to go at them a couple of times in all different directions to try and work them down. But otherwise, we've sort of got a good height across the whole lawn. Now on to step 2, which is aeration. There's 2 types of aerators you can use. One which is like a solid tine or a solid spike, think like a pitchfork, and then the other style is more like a hollow tine or a core aerator. We recommend using a core aeration for your renovation. It is the gold standard. Both are going to allow air, moisture, and nutrients to get down into that subsoil. But the benefit of a core aerator is also going to relieve a lot of that compaction. As you think about a solid spike, while yes, it leaves a hole, but essentially it's going to compact the soil around that hole that you've left as it's pushing it into those other spots. All right. You can do this either by hand or by machine. I would plan to do this one by hand, but this is some really heavily compacted clay soil here, and I was unable to even drive this thing into the ground. So I've had to go get the big guns and get a higher unit, which is pretty good. You can book them out for about $150. So normally get that for the day or even over the whole weekend. But hot tip is you want to book it in early in advance. Especially this time of year in the spring, everyone's trying to do their lawn renovation. So you want to try and book it in early, especially if you're trying to get it on a weekend. As for the cores themselves, you have sort of 2 options. You can if you've got a really good soil quality and you've been doing a lot of work and it's a really good sandy loam, then you can just brush them back in after they've been extracted and push them straight back into the soil, and that'll be a great topsoil to go back in. As for here, what we're going to do is we're going to run the mower back over the top and collect them all up. Because it's that really heavy compacted clay soil, we want to replace that with something a lot lighter, like a sand, which will allow a lot better aeration and better soil quality in the end. All right, let's get going. All right guys, we're back here day 2 and ready for our next step, which is going to be our soil amendments as well as our additives. First one we're going to be laying down is going to be our gypsum. As mentioned, this is a very heavy clay soil here. So we're going to be laying this gypsum pretty heavy, and that's obviously going to help break up a lot of those clay particles and really help aerate up that soil. Next one we're going to be doing is our fertiliser. We've got two that we're going to be putting on. The first one is essentially a all-rounder, essentially a starter fertiliser, which is going to be a lot higher in phosphorus and potassium. I'm using that because this soil has been so compacted down and essentially has never been fertilised. So it's going to be essentially low in all the nutrients. So we're going to be using that to really boost up in all the nutrients that this grass is going to need. Additionally with that, I'm going to be throwing on a bit of urea, which is a very fast release, fast acting nitrogen. As this starter fertiliser is very much more slower release, we're going to want to give the grass here a big kick in the guts and help it get growing back through following this renovation. So the urea here is going to help punch a lot of leaf growth up through a lot of the topsoil that we're going to be laying on and help it recover back and start photosynthesizing. Then finally, the final one I'm going to be adding is our acelepryn. This is a lot of this is our insurance policy. This is going to be stopping a lot of our lawn grubs and the African black beetle. Once we start improving the soil, it's going to become a really favourable breeding ground for a lot of those dirty grubs that are just going to chew up and destroy the root. So this is great stuff. This essentially gives 6-month coverage once this is on. So we put it on now, and that's going to cover us all through the summer period and stop any of those lawn grubs getting in and ruining our good turf. All right, let's get sprinkling. All right, guys, on to the next step, topsoil. Today we're going to be using a wash pit sand for the topsoil. What that means is it's been washed and screened of any sort of weed seeds or any sort of contaminants, so that way we're not bringing that in and we're going to have weeds shooting up through all of our newly renovated grass here. The way we're going to be putting this out is 1 tonne per 100 metres squared, which is about the standard you want to sort of plan for. The area here, the total area we're doing here is about 75 metres squared. So we're going a bit heavier, but we've got quite a few holes and low-lying spots that we really want to fill in, which is why we're going that bit heavier. It's relatively cheap. This whole tonne is only about $85, which is it's pretty standard what you'll find for a good wash sand. So it's not going to break the bank to sort of be able to do this. If you're unsure of the quality of the sand or any of the topsoil that you're getting, just go to the landscaper first and just do an inspection. It's always on display. You'll be able to go and inspect it. That way you can make sure it's clear of any sort of larger gravel pieces that are just going to do damage to your mower, and make sure it's clear of any weeds or anything that might have blown in from the area. When inspecting, you don't want too fine of a grain of sand, as the too fine a grain will end up having the same issues as the clay, and it'll just compact down and it'll squeeze out any other nutrients, air or water from getting down there. So the larger grain is going to have more gaps through the particles and allow for better root management. You can also look at using a dirt mix if you want to. That's going to have a bit more organic material mixed through with the sand. The soil that we have here is, as we mentioned, is a very thick, heavy clay. So we're just going to be using the straight sand to try and break that up. But if you find you've already got quite a sandy soil and you need that extra organic material, then absolutely, a lot of landscapers have a really great loamy sand mix, which will probably be perfect for your topsoiling. All right, let's get spreading. All right, we're on the home stretch. You may not be able to tell by how much grass is showing through here, but we've gone quite heavy with this topsoil. It's just that there was quite a few low spots that have really just consumed a lot of that sand and has really essentially thinned it out in a lot of the other spots, but this is quite heavy. That's also why we put our fertiliser and our soil amendment down first, because we're putting quite a lot of sand on the top. If you're putting just a light topsoil or just quite like a dusting of sand, then you might want to put your fertiliser and any of those amendments on afterwards, because as you start brushing that sand and that topsoil in, you're going to move a lot of those fertilisers around and get it bunching up in some spots and thin it out in others. Now moving on to our liquids. The first one we're going to be applying is our pre-emergent herbicide. This is Spartan. The other big one you'll see is also called Barricade. The only real difference is this is a 1/2 litre bottle and Barricade comes in a 1 litre, but they're pretty much identical. I can't stress how good this stuff is. How this works is this doesn't treat any of the weeds that have already grown and sprouted up through your lawn, but this essentially creates a layer through the soil and stops any of those seeds from germinating and stops any of those weeds from even growing through. It has a 6-month lifespan. It is absolutely some of the best stuff. It is quite expensive. You're looking at about $100 a bottle, but it is absolutely worth it. It'll cause a lot less stress in terms of how much weed management you have to do post. It's very much a great preventative. We use it on the farm all the time. The second one I'm going to be using is sea salt or a seaweed treatment. There's lots of various of these. You can get them from Bunnings or a lot of turf specialists. What this is going to help with is the fact that our sand is pretty low in organic material. Once we sprinkle this on and water it through, it's really going to help the roots of the grass quite quickly, because it's going to be readily available, and really help build that organic matter through the sand and help that grass grow through it. We'll put them in the sprayer, we'll spray this out, and then we'll get ready for our final stage. Sweet, so that's job done. Just hot tip for young players: invest in a good spray unit rather than just some old thing you've just found out in the farm. That thing was an absolute punish. All right, from here, you're going to want to give your lawn a really good drink, like talking for at least half an hour. It's a balmy 30-degree day here in Brisbane, so I'm going to be running this for quite a while to help relieve some of that heat stress on it. And then from after that, you're going to be wanting to do 2 good waterings each day. Definitely one in the morning and then maybe even late afternoon. And that'll just really help it bounce back and recover from the slog you've just put the lawn through. But you expect probably after about 2 weeks, you're going to see some really good growth, and you're probably going to be ready for that first mow. And then really after that 1 to 2 months, you're not even going to know that you did that reno. You're just going to be loving your new, fresh green lawn. All right, cheers.